All right, so for part 1A, you're going to be using one of your, or actually you're going to be using your favorite light painting pictures. So I said between 2 and 4. If you have, somewhere in that range, it's going to be fine. It's not going to take too long to do these. Basically what we're going to do is check the size, and this will be a good kind of overview about size. And then it's really just cropping the images. So those light painting pictures probably have like a lot of junk around the edges, or just a lot of empty blank space, and being able to crop will allow you to kind of focus in on what it is you really want the focal point of your picture to be. Okay, so for this you can use Photoshop, but I'm going to be demoing on Pixlr. So Pixlr is a free program. So pixlr.com is the web address, and you can use this on your Chromebooks. It actually is great for Chromebooks. Once you go to that website, you're going to see this little screen. You want to open your image from the computer, and as long as the image is already on your drive, you'll be able to navigate to it and open it. I'm just going to open on this like stupid, like bad landscape picture, but remember, you guys are going to be using your light painting pictures. Okay, so you're going to want to make sure you kind of make a copy of it, or when you save it, you save as, so it saves both the original version and the improved or cropped version, because on your slide you're going to be putting in both kind of the before and the after. Okay, so you want to make sure you have 2 copies of each one. All right, so first thing, when you open a picture, okay, it's always good to kind of check in with what is going on with that picture first. So if you go to the image menu and go to image size, you'll be able to see kind of the size of the image that's measured in pixels. Okay, this is where Pixlr is a little different, because it doesn't give you inches or centimeters or other measurements. It measures only in little pixels. Do we know what a pixel is? Right? A pixel is just kind of like if you take an image and convert it into like a grid. So let me show you an example. So this essentially is basically like if you were to enlarge your photograph into be so big that you can see each individual little square of color that makes up the image. That's basically what is creating the image. The computer doesn't know if it's a picture of, your cat, or, a landscape, or your foot, right? All the computer knows is that each of those little pictures is broken up into a grid. Each little quadrant of that grid is assigned a color. And that's how kind of it creates a picture. So when you're using these different programs, you're basically converting or using different controls to adjust the colors in each of those little pixel cells. So when you apply filters and stuff, it's just changing the colors in those different pixels. If you were to use a program like Photoshop, resolution would also play a role here too. So that's what this little diagram is kind of showing. Resolution is how many pixels per inch an image has. So if you have an image that has a low resolution, something like 72 dots per inch or pixels per inch, it's kind of a low quality image. And there's kind of a limit to how much you can enlarge that picture and still have it look crisp and clean and sharp. Versus an image that has a higher resolution, something like 300 pixels per inch, or dots per inch. So you could enlarge this and it would still look fairly clean. If you enlarged it maybe 2 or 3 times, if you blew it up to the size of the billboard, definitely then you would start to see the quality be lost. So when you're shooting, hopefully you're capturing a good resolution image, so size won't be such an issue, and you'll be able to print, a full size or even poster size piece of paper with maintaining good quality. So going back to what we see here, when we go to image and image size, I can see that this picture is only 500 pixels by about 375 pixels. So it's a fairly low resolution image. If I wanted to print this out, I probably wouldn't be able to print it much larger than like a postcard size without it starting to lose quality. I can kind of manually adjust this, and I can increase the pixel count, or if you're in Photoshop, you can increase the resolution size. But there's kind of a limit to how much you can do that. So it's always good just to check in and check out what you're doing before you start making edits or adjustments. Okay? So that's always kind of a good place to start. Now, the crop tool is actually this first tool in kind of the upper corner of your toolbox. So this is called a tool box or a toolbar or a tool palette. So this has all the different tools that you'll be able to use here. So the crop one is the first one. It looks like two L's kind of overlapping each other. So cropping is something you're probably pretty familiar with from, just other photo programs. Before you go to crop it, you have some options. So at the very top, you have something called a tool menu bar, or tool options bar. So depending on what tool you have selected, you can see as I click around, the options change, right? So when I have the crop tool, I can do a couple things with it. I can have no restriction, meaning I can drag this as tall and skinny as I want, or as short and wide as I want, or make it square, any kind of combination. Okay? Or I can maintain a certain aspect ratio. So if I wanted it to be square, I could say 1:1. And then that way it's only going to allow me to make a square size crop. Okay? Or if you wanted it to be like a rectangle and you wanted it to be like 2:1 or something like that, you can just set the ratio. If you want it to be a specific size, like if you're going to print this, which we will do with the light painting pictures, you might want to designate an output size. Now this is measured in pixels, so it's a little awkward to like convert it into inches, but basically if you want something to be like 5:7, which is a good size for printing for these, so we can print 5:7 is like a little smaller than half a sheet of paper. Okay, so we can set it to be like 700 by 500. Okay, and I can still get a variation kind of in size. I can make it small or large. This way it will keep a good ratio. So when I crop what I don't want, that end picture is going to be 500 pixels by 700 pixels. That way when I go to print it, it will print out at 5 inches by 7 inches. Okay, so you can kind of use that. Again, one of the drawbacks with Pixlr, because it's a free program, you can't measure in inches like you could with Photoshop. So just one of the drawbacks, but we can easily make that kind of modification using the pixel measurement. If you wanted it to be tall, like a portrait version instead of a landscape version, you could just swap these. So you could just change that to 500 by 700. Okay, so I'm going to do that for my silly example here. So this isn't a bad picture, but it's definitely not great. It's actually a little kind of crooked too. So if you wanted to kind of adjust any of those things as well, we can we could rotate it. I'll show you how to do that after. So you can kind of see it actually is nice because it shows you kind of the rule of thirds right there, right, with that little kind of grid. So it will help you if you need to kind of figure out what you want to keep and what you want to get rid of. Like this road in the front's not really adding anything to the picture, so maybe I want to try to eliminate that and focus mostly on this red barn and kind of get that into one of those kind of focal points. I get it lined up where I want, and then I just hit return and it's going to crop it for me. Okay, so it's going to apply that change when you hit return. Or if you try to Okay, so if you wanted to back yourself out and undo it, you can just go to Edit, Undo, or Control Z to kind of step back through time. So, or if you try to go on and do something else, it's going to ask you before you move on, do you want to apply the change? Do you want to crop it? Yes, no, or cancel. Okay, so cropping's pretty easy. It shouldn't take you more than like 10-15 minutes to do your 2 to 4 light painting pictures. Okay, so open them up, check the size, crop it, make sure you're constraining the output size to 5:7. And then once you've cropped it and you're happy with how that image looks, then you can go to File and Save. And you're going to want to rename it. Okay, so name, give the light painting pictures a name instead of just the image number. And then once you do that, I believe it will give you a little pop-up and ask you where you want to save it. And you can navigate to your drive and save it into your drive. Okay. If you have any trouble with that, just let me know. That it can be a little quirky working on a Chromebook with saving. So if you run into anything, let me know. It's a little different on my computer. Okay. Make sense? Yes?